Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is a Conquest video and our sector by sector series for Conquest 19, SM-33's Conquest. We are going to be looking at Sector 1 today, breaking down the feats and the progress, seeing how efficient we were able to be, what squads we were utilizing throughout that process, what our data disk options were and my thought process behind those choices, and then looking at the boss nodes. With our global feats, we are just slowly working on these as they can incidentally be done with the other sectors. It's not a priority for me until the end of Conquest, but with the first sector, you can use Bad Batch for the clones, so we have a decent amount of progress there. A little bit onto Stagger, but we'll be spreading out most of this progress throughout all of the sectors. For the Sector 1 feats, this one we almost got 3 out of 4. We basically got 3 out of 4, just with those clone units. We got a little bit of bad luck on the sectors where we were hitting some tough nodes. It was a really long streak of tough nodes on the later half where I was just relying on the Spectre squad to get through them, and otherwise earlier on with some easier nodes the clones were just knocking them out way too fast that I couldn't get extra defeats out of some nodes like the Night Sisters or a Mon Mothma. Evasion Up and Secret Intel, though, those are very easy. Spectre, that is one where there's just not enough stamina to do 20 battles in a single run through the sector. You're gonna have to just spread that out throughout Conquest. In an efficient run through the sector, you got 10 battles, or if you spread it throughout the day a little bit more, maybe you can stretch that out into 12 or 13 battles. This sector went according to the plan laid out in the preliminary squad and feat overview video that we released a week ago. We were leaning heavily on the old school Bad Batch because they have multiple characters that provide evasion up, which in-game is a relatively rare buff, but Hunter provides an AoE evasion up on his first special Shrouded Approach, and Echo provides it on his basic ability. So you're able to knock this out in just a couple battles, like 3 to 5 battles, you're going to be done with evasion up. Which actually does mean you don't have to rely on this Bad Batch squad for that many battles, except it does help with your global feats. So if you need to spread out your stamina, you do have the option to do that, but this is definitely the best possible squad that you can be using in Sector 1. For Secret Intel, I was utilizing this Resistance squad. You have to use a Resistance squad. BB-8 is the only character in-game that provides it. I surrounded him with the only other Relic Resistance characters that I have, and that is just to provide survivability. But if you have Rey, which I don't, you're going to have plenty of other options to flesh out this squad and maybe touch on a couple other feats. Like actually, Veteran Smuggler Han is an acceptable character because he does have a stagger. It's on his basic. And you also could be utilizing Resistance Hero Poe, who also has a stagger. So you can use those characters to help work on the global feat. For the Spectre squad, I do have Ahsoka. So I was leaning on Ahsoka lead. You don't have to, though. You can check back at the last Conquest where I did have low star Gear 11 Spectre characters, and I had no issue with any node that required either Spectre characters winning the node or any other Spectre related feat. The trade-off then, you'd bring in General Syndulla as your lead, you would throw in Chopper. If you don't have Exile, you don't use Exile, you just use Fulcrum. The only downside here is you're not able to go as low in stamina. The biggest advantage to having Ahsoka is that you can essentially go down to 0 on your stamina and still be getting wins on those nodes, which allows you to push that feat a lot further quicker. Data disk choices and my thought process on these. The first option was pretty poor. We grabbed power because that at least is going to boost some stats until we can replace it. It's not useless. These other ones, I just don't like the gray versions. At the first fork, we see some new discs. Some of them are pretty interesting. Superior Discipline with the ability to ignore a taunt. Ruthless Debilitation, though, a 1 dot and a blue, and it is giving us an armor shred and a healing immunity when our enemies fall below 100% health. That sounds really powerful for a 1-dot blue. And then of course we got Savior, which is a great disc. We've had that in the last set, and when you don't have relics on characters, Savior can be a huge boost to getting red crate when you have weaker characters. It just increases your leeway on these feats. Makes it easier to 3-star a node, and just means you can be more efficient overall. Our lower option is mainly junk. We have Master's Technique, opportunistic support with a little bit of recovery on the attacks out of turns. Helping Hands, though, that is at least interesting to look at because it's not good because it's gray, but that one can be decent if you find a blue one. But there's not that many squads that have summoning mechanics, so it's too niche to really go after. At the crossroads, we see our old friend Amplify Agony. It's a green one. That is probably what we're going to grab, even without looking at the rest of these. There's decent options in the middle with a solid intel. That's always useful. Ability exhaust is whatever, but intel gives that extra turn meter, so that's very useful. And on the bottom we have Stacking Fervor, which is actually a disc I like quite a bit. You can build some very powerful combos with that, especially if this is a set that has Blindside. I love having Blindside with Fervor, and squads that attack out of turn a lot becomes a very powerful combo. But in this situation, we're not even going to think about it. We're grabbing that Amplify Agony. That's just very powerful, especially on debuff heavy squads, which we have this Conquest. Between the Bad Batch and the Dark Side clones, the Amplify Agony is going to really boost what we do, especially when those characters are not at 7 stars and relics for me. Up top, offensive buffs, that is whatever, not really worth 2 slots, and for a green, it is pretty weak. But down below, we have a second look at Superior Discipline, but we have another new disc in Assertive Command, and this I like quite a bit for the same reasons we just talked about with Stacking Fervor. If we can pair this thing with Blindside, we're going to have a very powerful combo, and we can start building up a set around these things. With Assertive Command, when we use a basic ability, we're calling an assist. I don't really care so much about doing less damage. I just care about that combo with Blindside if we can find it. Maybe it doesn't exist in this set, but we're going to hold out hope. And on our final note, we get some great luck. We have a blue Amplify Agony. We'll pair that with our green one. Maybe we'll take one of them off down the line, but right now we're just going to be doing a lot of damage with those discs. This is some of the best stuff you can be grabbing. And at the start of Sector 2, some okay options. We have Certain Defeat. I like Savior better, the one that we passed on, but Certain Defeat I like for very similar reasons. This is just going to make it a little bit easier to be using some of these weaker characters that we're utilizing this Conquest. Like right now, I could technically promote my new Bad Batch characters. I am, for the purposes of these videos, leaving off the extra star promotions because I want to show free-to-play players to not be discouraged by the fact that they don't have them finished. You can still use these things, and we'll be showing some footage of that tomorrow. Sector 1, Mini-Boss. Loyal Soldier with 5s surviving and Power of Darkness. Win with only dark side characters. Prior to the start of Conquest, my initial thought was to use a clone squad like this, but that was before knowing what the mini-boss was, what the mechanics were, and this is not going to be an option. I gave it a couple tries, you just end up losing 5s. But what ultimately does work pretty well is using gas here. This is a second attempt footage though, because for whatever reason I was not recording when I did this on my first attempt. In this battle here, you don't have to use Krex. I just like what Krex is bringing with the tenacity down and the daze. That's going to help negate what some of the Tuskens are doing, but he does bring risk where you could lose him. Now the goal here is just to knock down Chieftain as quickly as possible. Just focus on him. I click on Warrior here, don't do that. I just was thinking of managing momentum, but they get momentum so quickly it's irrelevant. You just knock out Chieftain, that's going to shut down a lot of the mechanics. Warrior's your next target, because he's the offensive threat. He's going to have so much momentum, he can do damage. Once he's gone, you have less to worry about. Try and use 501st characters to hit anyone with momentum so you don't lose Krex if you do bring them. But I unfortunately had to hit somebody with high momentum at that point. That's why we lost the corrects. I did not lose them in the first attempt. That's a little RNG dependent. And then here, with tenacity up, you see the dots have shut down, and we don't have to worry about it. But capturing this footage, we did end up finishing this clone feat that we still had hanging on. For our second mini-boss feat, the dark side characters, I went with the Inquisitors, but you really have your pick. Just choose a powerful dark side squad. Inquisitors, I was hoping they were going to be recoverable enough. Dispel, Third Sister we can afford to lose, so I thought they were going to have a chance at finishing this, but I had already 3-starred with the gas version, so I could also afford to lose characters here. And there may be better options, but with a feat like this, it's just kind of choose what's strong. Going after Chieftain quickly, knocking him out. Same kill order, going after Warrior. Then Raider would be the next target for me. I don't even know if I'd do it. But we can have Third Sister getting as many of the dots as possible. I went with Protection Up from Fifth Brother. But you can see we're getting a lot of dots onto Second Sister. We heal her. I go for the Cleanse from Grand Inquisitor. You would want to have Grand Inquisitor if you were doing this. We lose Second Sister, but it's still an effective way through the node. Sector 1 final boss, Fears a Choice, Kestis surviving, and Tracker Hunter Mercenary surviving. Now I did try the new Bad Batch squad at these levels to see how it would do, and it did poorly. But that is also why we prepared with this Hyde surviving squad, your classic JML with Watt to force the taunt, and then you just take that slot and put in whoever into it. In this case it was Hunter Mercenary, and this does very well. It's helpful to go after Darth Revan, because once you get rid of Darth Revan, then you can have stuns again. Right now we can't stun anyone, so we have less control. Putting some buffs around, doing a little bit of management. Saving the stun for later. We put healing recovery onto Hunter just in case those AoEs do some damage. Try to increase the cooldowns on Revan. Pulling some assists onto the side characters. Decided to go for Breach anyway. And you can see, pretty powerful. But if you have a weak character, that is a classic squad to take care of that problem. For Kestis surviving, you use a light side unlined force user squad. Seer June to lead. He's going to make all the light side unlined force users very survivable. You can see here from the Spectre feat, my Padawan Sabine was way too low to use, so we are going to pull her out of the squad. But we also have Visas as part of this combo to help recover somebody if we happen to lose anyone. And we're also using the light side unlined force users for the global feat. So this is going to accomplish two things. Now I'm sliding in CLS instead of Padawan Sabine because he has some recovery, so hopefully we're not going to lose him. But we're always looking for those opportunities to work on multiple feats at once, which we can do on this node. We will be working on this feat a lot more during Sector 3. But the same deal here, my goal is to deal with Darth Revan first, ideally. Don't think we really get that opportunity though. Bring up the Protection Up with Seer Junda. This probably wouldn't work here with too weak of a Seer Junda because of Darth Revan's mechanics, but she's in general very survivable squad. Let me chuck that at Revan, we're done with it. Sector 1 in general has been pretty easy. I think this video series will be helping out a lot more in the later sectors. Yeah. Sector 2 will be coming in a few hours. We're going to be doing all of these sectors as quickly as possible. We might even be able to do Sector 3 today, depending on the energy resources. I might even do the extra refreshes to get that done early for you guys, so we can have all sectors out as early as possible, and hopefully as many of these before you need them. But up in the corner, we have our squad and feat overview, my preliminary thoughts prior to the start of Conquest. If you do get ahead of me, you can check that one out. And then down below, the Datacron video, and hopefully I'll remember to swap out that Datacron video during the next iterations of this Conquest series when we have a new Datacron set. But thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.